Hello everybody, we're finally back with more videos from me, and just in time for the League of Extraordinary Trainers to actually start back up. We are on its 10th season, and for this one they decided to do a special version of it. So it's actually going to be, I forget what the official name for it is, but basically we're using lower tiered Pokemon for this. We don't have access to any of the upper tiered ones. And for LET, it's split up like in a bracket system. So from A to F. And with that being said, we don't have access to A and B tiers and the ultra good tier S that they also have. So we have to use C or less, minus a few Pokemon that got banned for probably being too powerful for the being too powerful for that setup. So with all that, this and the next few videos at the very least are actually going to be quite a few weeks out from when I actually played these, so we're going to do these videos a bit differently. I'm going to be doing my commentary as we watch through these together. So we'll get live action commentary with post action battle. Alright, but anyways, so for my week 1 opponent for LET, we are facing the San Antonio Snorlax. So their team consisted of Beware, Aromatisse, Bronzong, Corsola Galar, Archeops, Druddigan, Wishy-Washy, Emolga, Ferroseed, and Dragonair. And then for my team, I picked up Gigalith, Xurkitree, Stoutland, Claydol, Flareon, Vileplume, Dottler, Swoobat, Walrein, and Fletchinder. So I definitely picked up an interesting team. My main format for picking Pokemon is, generally speaking, going with Pokemon I don't normally use. This way I have an excuse to actually breed these Pokemon and put them to use in battle. But anyways, back to the battle at hand. So Xurkitree is probably going to be my main damage dealer for almost all of my battles anyways, so I have almost no reason not to bring it against everybody. That does include this team. This team only has let's see here, 4 Pokemon that resist it. Yes. And no ground types that are completely immune to electric, so that does wonders for Xurkitree. And those 4 Pokemon that resist it are Druddigan, Ferroseed, and Dragonair. And then Emolga is actually immune, so correcting myself on that, provided that it's got its Motor Drive ability. If it doesn't, it's neutral, and we don't care. That being said, as we're looking at what was actually brought to this battle, he didn't bring Emolga at all, which surprised me quite a bit. I do remember some from these battles, but this is like 4 weeks ago, so. Anyways, without Emolga, he only had one Pokemon that actually resisted Xurkitree's electric attacks, and that is Druddigan. Bad thing for Druddigan, though, Xurkitree does learn useful coverage moves, one of which being Dazzling Gleam. So, Druddigan is not as much of a factor for Xurkitree, thanks to that. So that's one of the reasons why we brought Xurkitree, and I think the rest of the team is actually brought more or less to kind of cover for other things that Xurkitree doesn't handle as well. Like defensive Aromatisse on Bronzong. Granted, it's neutral against both of them, but if they're both specially defensive, Xurkitree is still going to have a somewhat hard time breaking through them and living to deal with the rest of the team. So we got to have things that will deal with either or both. So at least for the Aromatisse, my best bet is almost always going to be Vileplume. Being a poison type against Fairy is always a good idea. And as for the Bronzong, Stoutland has Crunch for its one of its attacks. Then we've got ground coverage with Claydol if Bronzong is running Heat Proof, maybe to try and cover the Flareon I have. I don't know. One of the other things I wanted to try and bring is a setup Swoobat, because that's one of the things I love. Simple, the ability. Getting double the stats on whatever you're setting up is borderline broken, in my opinion. But it's just a wonderful way to try and set up on people. So we brought Swoobat because Swoobat can do that to a good portion of these Pokemon. And it also packs Heat Wave for the Bronzong as well. So we can use that to try and help break Bronzong. And otherwise, stored power, and between stored power and Air Slash, it hits the rest of my opponent's team for at least neutral. So Swoobat's also a good choice as a backup sweeper for Xurkitree. The Vileplume I mentioned earlier, it's actually more of a defensive set, but that's kind of alright. I mean, it's a defensive check for a great deal of his Pokemon, and still deals with Aromatisse decently well. Claydol is obligatory Rapid Spinner, and also general tank for things like the Beware. Because we do not want to be taking a double edge to the face from that Beware. Granted, these are what I'm thinking right now, not what I was thinking 4 weeks ago when this battle took place. So we'll see how right I was on some of those, if I can remember what I'm doing. I am not always good at remembering this stuff. But anyways, I think that's enough chatter from me for my opponent between the matchups. Let's go ahead and get this thing rolling and see how we did. Alright, so Xurkitree, looks like we put Xurkitree first, which, without a Molga to actually absorb the electric attacks, is actually pretty good, in my opinion. And his only resist he brought is Druddigon, so we can either fire off a Thunderbolt, a Volt Switch, or whatever. Or, if Druddigon is the first one in, we can Dazzling Gleam it for a surprise KO, or at least heavy damage without Druddigon probably destroying Xurkitree. My only problem with Druddigon is that it does get Glare, which is paralysis that ignores electricity. So that is never fun to deal with. But that's alright. So let's see what my opponent decided to put in first. And he actually brought in Wishy-Washy first. I would assume that he was expecting Gigalith to come out first for Stealth Rocks. Which, I mean, if you don't have a better way to start, yeah, that's always a good assumption. But when I've got something who, one, probably outspeeds the entire team even without a Choice Scarf, and two, is able to just switch in and out with Volt Switch. Oh, and you know what? He actually named his Druddigon for me, apparently. I had forgotten about that. But yeah, that Thunderbolt definitely hurts the Druddigon. So, now it's in. Hit Dazzling Gleam, because why not? I don't know what my opponent is expecting, so might as well just go straight for damage. And an early Druddigon KO is great, because that means no Stealth Rocks, hopefully. But they did swap out to Bronzong, so we reveal that we have Dazzling Gleam to deal with that Druddigon. And do negligible damage to the Bronzong. And take Life Orb damage because of it. So, kind of as I was getting into earlier, Bronzong is not something we want to technically stay in on, just because we don't know how much of a tank this thing is. Okay, so Volt Switch did a decent amount of damage, so I could have possibly stayed in, but Volt Switch was the safer play at the time. Hindsight's always 20/20. It's not like I know what his sets are right off the bat. And then he's putting up Light Screen. That's probably a very good bring, considering a great deal of my damage dealers are specially based. Especially Xurkitree and Swoobat. Those two are obviously known to be doing their special attacks. But we can get past the light screen because we get a +4 to our Nasty Plot instead. So now it's rendered to a +2 thanks to light screen, but that should be more than enough to deal with a Bronzong with Heat Wave. Should be the key word. And we burned it at the same time, so now we got Trick Room set up because Bronzong actually lived that, which surprises me. So now we have to deal with the slow terrain, which benefits his team a lot more than mine does, especially since almost my entire team is actually a great deal faster than his. So Trick Room, not great, but I'm thinking with the team that I brought, I can still probably handle it until Trick Room goes away. Because we've offed Bronzong, so he's not setting Trick Room back up again unless he brings in Aromatisse. And if he brings in Aromatisse, I mean, Vileplume comes in and starts dealing damage to that, or whatever comes in to try and tank it. Which, he doesn't actually have too much left that can do that for him, because Bronzong's gone. Yep. And looks like we decided to stay in and just sacrifice Swoobat, since we had no idea what was coming off of this thing. And waste a turn of Trick Room. So, we got that going. And it looks like we may have been thinking to put Gigalith in, set up Sandstorm, and maybe take a special attack to the face. Which is alright if this thing's choice locked into the into that Ice Beam. But if it wasn't, I mean, then it could swap to a water attack and, while maybe not KO Gigalith, definitely deal more than enough damage that it can just go through it later. Alright. And we are going back to the Druddigon, who is going to eat a Retaliate in the face. Which will get the KO. And we take Rough Skin and probably Rocky Helmet. Nope, just Rough Skin. Okay. Oh, nope, there it is. No, that's Life Orb. Alright. So what does he send in next after that? Squishleo. Oh. Next is the Beware, the giant teddy bear of doom. So, obviously being a fighting type, we don't really want to keep Stoutland in on this thing, especially when Trick Room is still up, because Stoutland's going to be faster than every single one of his Pokemon. And now we get to eat a Double Edge. And yeah, that's a significant amount of damage right there. But this is probably my defensive Claydol, so, which we brought to take this Beware, I think. And then we got Reflect set up as well, so the rest of my Pokemon can take a hit or two from this thing as well. Darkest Lariat does ignore screens, if I remember correctly. Maybe not, judging from that damage. Either way, the Twisted Dimensions are back to normal, and we actually saw that Claydol was faster than this thing. So yeah, he seems to be running almost an entirely Trick Room team. Oh. No, wait, I used Teleport this turn, didn't I? Yep. Okay. So we guarantee a safe switch in for whatever I'm bringing in next. Which is... who exactly? Gigalith. Okay. Gigalith's an interesting choice because we still have to take the super effective stab fighting moves. But this Gigalith is also packing Body Press, which leads me to believe this is probably one of my physically defensive Gigaliths. And we have Reflect up as well. Oh, this is the Iron Defense setup Gigalith. So yeah, he really doesn't care about this thing. Well, He cares before he sets up. But that Reflect is putting in work. So those Drain Punches aren't going to mean much for that Beware, thankfully. So we can set up our Stealth Rocks. He didn't bring... I don't think he brought anything that can get rid of Stealth Rocks. I think his only Defogger or Rapid Spinner or his Archeops. Well, yeah. And he didn't bring Archeops, which probably a good thing. A Choice Scarf Xurkitree would take care of that thing pretty quick, so yeah. Oh. Beware is out. Corsola Galar is in. And he did predict the Body Press. I mean, I think I hopefully would too, considering that Gigalith came in on something it's normally weak to. Alright. But with Corsola Galar still in this, we really want to get rid of that Evilite that it's got to be packing. Otherwise, there's not much use to it. Ooh, Stealth Rocks. I forgot that Corsola Galar does get Stealth Rocks. So we still had to worry about this thing setting it. Well, not anymore, because now we have it. Now both sides have Stealth Rocks, which means no free switch-ins for anything. And there goes our Reflect. So Corrosive Gas may not be as nice as, say, Knockoff, but there are a couple of key differences that might help. There are some items that activate upon taking damage, that activate before Knockoff's effect goes off. So Corrosive Gas would be good in those instances. But yeah, one thing I neglected to remember was to get something with Knockoff. So thankfully we had Vileplume, who has access to Corrosive Gas thanks to the move tutors. So now we no longer have an Evilite Corsola, which is wonderful news. I hate fighting this thing so much. So now we can kind of sit here. Ooh, we swapped out the Corsola, and we're bringing back the Beware. So Vileplume can probably take one Double Edge, because Vileplume is bulky. Not physically so as much, but it does have a lot of HP. And the more Pokemon he brings in to try and fight Vileplume, the more likely we are to do that against contact Pokemon. And get rid of the item that they're holding. Which, my guess is... Oh, Assault Vest. So actually a very good thing that we didn't... So now we've paralyzed this thing, which means Vileplume will probably be faster than it. And then we can take its attack stat and heal ourselves with it, too. Strength Sap is probably one of the most broken moves, in my opinion, in the game. But while it's in the game, we're going to try and use it. So not only are we lowering the attack stat on this thing, but we're probably almost fully healing, because this thing's attack stat should be high. Yep, full heal. And it didn't even get to get an attack off, so that's even more wonderful news. And without that Assault Vest, Sludge Bomb should KO this thing. And since we're not using any contact moves, its ability Fluffy isn't going to matter at all, if that's what ability he was running with it. Oh, Corsola is back. It is still missing its Evilite, though, so we don't care. Not to mention, we also got the poison off as well, so that helps immensely. However, it can pretty well wall Vileplume. And we decide to go into Claydol for some reason. I'm still not trying to fathom why that is. I mean, Strength Zap seemed like the obvious choice of coming. And Claydol would have one of the lowest attack stats I have on this team. But if that's all, I mean... one Nightshade and Claydol's gone. But Claydol has mostly tanked everything it needed to. And it's not going to be fast enough to get Rapid Spin off, probably. So we're just going to get a safe switch in on this guy. Due to Claydol being knocked out. But this means that Corsola is taking extra damage. And now we're debating on who we want to send in. And we decided this is a good time to have Circuitry set up and destroy everything, apparently. Might as well go ham, I don't think. Because we already took care of Drud again, which means we could just spam the Thunderbolts. And he didn't want to risk that. So now he's bringing in Aromatisse right off the bat, so that leads me to believe that this is what he brought to counter Circuitry. However, it was not able to do so effectively. Still taking a lot of damage from that Thunderbolt. Life Orb helps. I'm not sure if this thing was specially defensive and invested or not. But it is running Protect, which would also lead me to believe it's running Wish as well to heal the rest of its team. But I never gave him the opportunity to actually do that. Or at least it would seem so. So now he just has to have it sit there and try and heal. Probably the slight hesitation of trying to attack this thing again. Because I wasn't sure of the damage we did to it. But it was enough. So down goes Pinky, up goes our Beast Boost, and is probably the end of the game. Because I don't think he shouldn't have anything left to really tank a Thunderbolt to the face, and Circuitry should be faster than everything else he has. Out comes the Corsola. But we're at +1 with Circuitry's sky-high special attack stat. So that shouldn't matter. And it doesn't have its Evilite anymore, so now it's just low HP with high special defense. So there's not much he can do with that, unfortunately for him. And we will score the KO on that. Getting us another Beast Boost, and the rest of his team is just kind of gone. Because next he should still have that Beware and the Wishy-Washy. And Wishy-Washy's too slow, and Beware is definitely too slow, thanks to being paralyzed. Alright. Down goes to Beware. Beast Boost number 3. One of the Pokemon that I think they missed when they were looking at Pokemon to ban from this format is Circuitry. Me and a friend who was helping me kind of build this team, draft this team, figure out what kind of Pokemon I wanted to draft from it. We noticed that Circuitry was actually in here still, and it hadn't been grabbed yet in my portion of the league. So we decided to pick that up as soon as we could because it's a wonderful Pokemon to sweep with. Choice Scarf, Life Orb, if you can get Circuitry faster than everything else. So there we have it. Week 1, we win against San Antonio Snorlax. And we managed to do that 4-0, so that gave us a pretty good differential to start right off the bat. Alright. So with all that being said, I will catch you guys next time with another LET. But be sure you guys also look forward to the Bidding War League. That also started at about the same time as the League of Extraordinary Trainers. So we're going to be running videos from both of those. So be sure you guys tune back in for more episodes from there. So catch you all next time.